The exercise of world building at its best is that the world is without limit. You can't see the edges of it. And so it makes the reality of the story even more compelling. And I think that's kind of what world building is about. Hi, I'm Zack Snyder, and today we're going to talk about how to create a cinematic universe. This is Snyder School. Let's look at it. When you talk about a cinematic universe, you're really talking about a fictionalized world in which your story will take place. And also where the normal rules or the normal sort of environments or social constructs might not exist in the same way that they do in our everyday life. When we did 300 or Dawn of the Dead, or if you want to talk about Watchmen, those are examples of worlds that assume through their existence of, say, zombies or superheroes, that it's a different world than the world we live in. So when you're thinking of a story, you're having to sort of imagine a society and or complete world that can support the mythology that you're creating. And so what does the world look like? Like, what are the rules? Who's the president? Is there a president? Like, what do cars look like? How does that affect your story? Watchmen is a good example of a fictionalized history. A lot of what the title sequence is of that movie is this fictionalized history that brings us to the present day, that shows us the influence of those superheroes on our culture and on the world, so that when we arrive in the present day, which is the 1980s in that movie, we arrive there with all the knowledge of what's happened up to this point. And that's similar to Army, because we have this title sequence that kind of like is a primer in the fall of Las Vegas, and it's subsequently the wall being built around it and it being sealed off from the rest of the world. It's a way to kind of get the audience up to speed with the sort of culture of the film, even just in the sort of main notion that Las Vegas is a walled city and the zombies are stuck inside. That's an example of like, okay, so we need to figure out a society for the zombies inside of Vegas. And often those elements are part of the why of the story anyway. Like in Man of Steel, for instance, we had to create Krypton in order to express that Kal-El was from another planet. And so we had to design this entire world, like an entire planet, with different spaceships, different technology entirely, different social constructs, everything.
Ready, and action!
This idea that the zombies are us without a lot of the like tropes of society on top of us, like greed and guilt and jealousy. So like, what is that pure sort of creature like? We were loving the idea of trying to get to that. And so that's what sort of informed the society and the creation of the alphas. The movie has some self-awareness and understands that it is sort of playing with genre and playing with like the way you understand the tropes. The whole idea is to lull you into the genre and kind of twist it a little bit and kind of start to put you on uneasy ground. And so we were always working on that. Like we always kept that idea central. And so that informed a lot of the things like, Zeus, how he interacts with his guys and what he wants to do. When he finds out that the queen is dead, how he reacts, and the humans breaking the deal. And you have these story elements that start to like make the world have to make sense.
What is this? Valentine.
The perfect example with Army is, the birds. So there's no zombie birds in Army because zombie birds break the story. Because you can't build a wall to contain zombies if there's zombie birds. So the birds fly in there, get infected, fly out, and now the world's a zombie issue. But because of their unique biology, birds aren't affected by the zombie plague. I mean, thank God. My relationship to the actors, I'm asking them to realize this imagined world. Through them, we are to experience, pain and sorrow, whatever it is. And so when looking for those actors and when it's been my experience to talk to them and kind of try and see if they see it the way I do, I find that really fun. And you apply that to everybody, even the smallest parts. Like, do they see it? Do they feel it? Or is there something unique about the way they see it that I'm like, wow, wouldn't have thought of that. We should do that.
Amar, you got there, but anyway, you were, like when the dog barked, you were where? Like in here?
Right here.
Yeah.
It's fun to imagine like who you would actually need to do a zombie heist. And especially in our case, what our characters' skill sets are and how they relate. And that's often where the characters come from. Minor characters have incredible stories and arcs as well, just because in the work of making them real, in the work of finding the why of their existence, they'll speak to you, and they have their own agenda, their own needs, and then those will become interesting, but often in the service of their true role, they'll sacrifice themselves nobly. We're gonna cross shoot back the other way as well. So it'll be like this.
Does this do you justice in here?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So let's talk with Shay Hatton, amazing writer who wrote Army of the Dead with me, and who wrote Army of Thieves, and also the animated series. So let's talk with Shay about how we're blowing this thing up.
I think the thing that initially was exciting for me is that, like, I've, of course, been watching zombie movies my whole life, and I've seen so many versions of this that I felt like the genre was kind of tapped out on ways that you could level it up, and then,
Sure.
Zach had a really clear way that you could level it up by just introducing to other genres. No matter how many times you've seen zombies, when you see them in the context of a heist movie, it suddenly gives them new life.
The reason why I think zombie movies have endured is that we are the monster in the movie, right? It's just humans without their humanity. In Army, because there's a culture, and our group is really the imperial sort of side of humanity, it's more interesting that there's a society that they have to deal with.
They didn't ask to be there or be created or be forced to live in this city. It's like every facet of their existence was kind of created by the bad decisions of us and our government, and now we still treat them like the enemy, and it's our,
Yeah.
responsibility to wipe them out, which is just kind of inherently, ludicrous.
They're not ambitious,
Right.
in contrast to the humans in the movie,
Yeah.
who are super ambitious and willing to F someone over.
What are you doing?
We were very into the rules. Basically, we had a patient zero, Zeus, and he came clearly from a military base. If Zeus bites you, you're an alpha, but if an alpha bites you, you're a shambler. That allowed, at the beginning, this overabundance of shamblers, they're the main threat, and you might not even see an alpha because there's so few of them.
Part of the fun is that we kind of left ourselves a lot of room for discovery along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like the spin-off movie is set in Germany, so we had to figure out what that part of the world is doing while there's a zombie apocalypse in America. And then the anime had all these other questions that grew out of it as well. So it kind of evolved very naturally as we just were having fun having these conversations.
You go, if you howl his arrival, then they'll all park the crowd.
Movies require a massive group to make them happen, right? But writing you can do by yourself. It requires no money. It's like a commitment. That's putting your head down and just doing the work. And I always say, write a short story, write a 5-minute thing that's good. Write a 10-minute thing that's good, or that you like.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, I did that. Now I can write 15 pages. Now I can write 30. Now I can write 500 pages, whatever. If you're writing a Zack Snyder
Don't write a
movie.
500-page script.
Unless you're me, and then you have to only write 500.
Yeah, exactly.
I was given this piece of advice early in my career by my friend, and he said that whatever movie you make, you should make it as if there's no chance you'll make another one. And so your effort and your passion and your dedication needs to reflect that point of view.
Cut.
This is all I've got, and I'm gonna do it all the way. It really depends on how fleshed out your world is in your mind, whether or not you can seed it.
Got it. All right, and playback, please. Playback.
In Army of the Dead, there's a lot of Easter eggs in the movie. I think in the first 4 shots, there's a little weirdness in the sky. The zombies have glowing eyes. If you look in the pool scenes, you can see some of them. There's a couple of zombies that when they get killed, something weird happens to them. There's always a question about what is that sort of blue phosphorescence that was that's in Zeus's blood and that's in the baby. These are things to look for and talk about. So it's always fun, what if the Kresh in the Superman ship, that is whatever thousands of years ago, a Kryptonian scout ship crashed on Earth. Everyone died in the crash. One of the Kreshes is open and the person's gone. So you're saying that there's a Kryptonian here on Earth somewhere, other than Superman. Among my fans, it's a question I get all the time. Who was in the crash? I have a pretty good idea who was in the crash, but I don't know if we'll ever know. I don't know if I'll ever say.
Okay, we'll do one more. Last cut.
Last best. One more, guys. Last best.
Movies are and can be an escape. They can be like this place to go that you could never go in real life. And we get caught up in a movie, it's taking us to a place that we could never visit in the real world. That's kind of what world building is about. When you get to go experience stuff, you know, whether it's Star Wars or Excalibur, you get to go to that place and briefly live in that world. All right, guys, well, I hope some of this information about filmmaking is helpful. I can't wait to see what movies you guys make. That would be awesome. I'm always excited to see a new film from a new filmmaker, so please knock my socks off.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the Netflix Film Club channel to get our latest exclusive videos. Plus, hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.